Com Games, and then you found yourself going over to the USA to Altus.
I did. So that was after I'd sort of, semi-retired as an athlete. And I knew I was going full into sort of work mode, even though I was working the whole way through my career. And
This post. I can't remember if this was post Olympics. It was.
oh yeah,
It?
yep, definitely. Yep. So Olympics 2012 and then
2012. Remember that?
I do.
Room full of celebrities, and the only person I wanted to get my photo with was with you.
Oh mate, that's special. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, it was 3 years after that. So 2015 was when I went to the US, and it wasn't so. Steve Hooker and I had basically built an organization in Melbourne, which is an athletic development organization. Essentially, we teamed up with another education company, and we were sort of what we thought was, and I think we did a great job with the small group that we had, but basically building out something that was. We were kind of filling the gaps of what they were getting, in their normal training environment. So they had their personal coaches, and then we'd do, conditioning work with them. We'd do, really, really high level sort of mechanics work. And as we were doing that, I was going across to this company called Altus, over in Phoenix, who was essentially, we were doing very similar things to the model that they had. So we were trying to understand what model that they were working through and what was working for them.
And replicate it. Yep.
And replicate it as best we could,
Yep.
And then at one point, I was over there doing some education with them, and the CEO was like, "Mate, do you want to work with bobsled? Do you want to move to Phoenix and work with bobsled?" And at the time, I thought he was kidding. I'm like, "There's no way he's serious." And I spoke to another colleague later.
Bobsled.
And I was like, "Was Stu serious?" He's like, "Yeah, he doesn't joke about that kind of thing. If he asked you to." If he offered you a job, then he meant it. I was like, all right. So 5 months later, I'm on a plane and I'm going over this. I'm spending my summers with the best sprint group in the world at the time.
Yep.
So I think there was 5 guys under 10 seconds in the training group that I was working with.
Ooh.
And so that was my summer working in 43-degree heat Celsius.
Right.
And then in the winter,
I'd
jump, exactly, shoes off every day.
Yeah.
And then I jump on a plane in the winter and go start in Lake Placid, but travel around Europe and do the tour with the USA Bobsled and skeleton team as their start coach. So I was doing mainly therapy in the summer. It was in this incredible environment that I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about. But and then winter was just cold as hell and traveling around with bobsledders. But talk about working with a sport that you
did know nothing about. That's what I was about to ask.
I've never seen a bobsled before. I'd never touched one. And I'm going, and so all these poor US athletes who had this coach who'd been with the team for 16 years and coached, I think, more Winter Olympic medalists than any coach in the history of.
Wow.
I could be wrong with that, but I think he's got something in the vicinity of 20 or 30 Olympic medals. And I come in and they're like, who the hell is this freaking Aussie guy? Doesn't know shit about bobsled or skeleton. Oh yeah, cool. He's a track athlete. He can hurdle. Great. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. What's he got for us?
So I had some work to do to build some trust from those guys, and interestingly, and this is post my sort of 6 years with them. Even afterwards, I've had athletes reach out and say, "BJ, I appreciated so much your willingness to just learn and put your own crap aside to ask good questions and just be there with the athlete." There was no one that we'd work with previous to the guy that was in my job beforehand that really did that properly. So it was interesting that I was going into this like really like the start house of a bobsled race is like something you just it's something to behold. You've got 30 guys in this room the size of a kitchen, all like warmed up and steaming. It's minus 20 outside and they're getting ready to push a sled for 6 seconds before they jump in and go down the hill. And it was really intense. Like they're grunting on the line and I'm the skinny white bloody Australian coming and trying to tell these guys how to push a 220 kilo sled.
Did you ever go down in a bobsled?
I did. And it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. Yeah, I would recommend it to anyone who ever gets the chance. It's hectic. Like it's
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
I remember sitting there in the back going, "What do I do with my head?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, is it popping up or is it down?" Like, you got no choice, mate. I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like there's 6 Gs of force. You're going to be stuck to the bottom of the sled. You're not going to be able to move. I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
fuck off.
So it was a really, really interesting experience. And I didn't go down on the hardest track. There was much harder, like more violent tracks than the one that I went down on. But so yeah, the way that I sort of got into that group, and I was there as a coach, but I didn't know much about coaching bobsled, so I just got my table out and started treating, and that was how I got to know the athletes. Was just getting them on the table, and most of them hadn't had sort of high level treatment before, so I got to know them by just having hands on, and then that was how I became a better coach. Was just knowing the athletes and understanding their bodies better, and obviously I've got about 7,500 bobsled films on my iPad as a result of that 6 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a trip, what an experience.
Well, I mean, and that's a little bit about what we were talking about, wasn't it? Obviously, you're immersing yourself in that sport and trying to learn as much as you can, because you were literally ground zero, a completely blank canvas, and I'm just here to observe and absorb as much as I can so that I can better help you guys. So yeah, I mean, it's nuts. You're from Mackay and you went and worked with bobsled. That's just insane. Let's talk a little bit about Altus.